Hey everybody, this is Matt Mayoka at NBC Sports Bay Area checking in on Thanksgiving morning. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody out there watching this video, and heck, even happy Thanksgiving to people who aren't watching this video, although they won't know that I'm wishing them a happy Thanksgiving. They're missing out. Hey, this is brought to you by Canyon Club Brewery. It has a great selection of beers, great selection of menu items, all located in Moraga. Family friendly atmosphere out there in Moraga with a big outdoor space, fire pits. Bring the family dog, bring the kids, have them run around, keep the dogs on a leash. Maybe some parents need to keep their kids on a leash too, but that's neither here nor there. Canyon Club Brewery in Moraga, coming soon to the Livery in Danville. So I'll keep you posted when that opens, but it should be pretty soon. Okay, so the 49ers did have a practice or are having a practice on Thanksgiving. The media is kind of shut out. So the old days, I remember we would go and cover more, I guess, when I didn't have a family. I'd cover Thanksgiving practice, and I just remember guys like Tom Rathman and some of the players like kind of giving us grief, going, "We have to be here. Why don't you people just go home? Don't you have families?" All very good natured, but in recent years, 49ers have closed off their Thanksgiving practices because they want to just kind of get out there early in the day, get out, get to their families. Last year, if you recall, the 49ers played on Thanksgiving night in Seattle. And then, a month later, they played on Christmas night in Levi Stadium against the Baltimore Ravens. So obviously, when the injury report comes out, the participation report, all eyes will go to Brock Purdy. I'm assuming he'll be limited. I don't know. We'll see what that means. I'll try to get some information of whether he actually threw passes. Yesterday, he was listed as limited, but threw no passes, just a couple of little short tosses. But that brings us to the quarterback situation. And one of the big developments here in the NFL over the past week or so is the New York Giants demotion and then ultimate release of Daniel Jones, the number 6 overall pick in the 2019 draft. And a lot of thought was, would the 49ers be interested in him? And would they be interested in him even more now with Brock Purdy having missed the game against the Green Bay Packers and maybe his short-term availability a little bit in question? Well, Daniel Jones was not claimed off waivers, which meant that no team was obviously going to just pick up the remainder of that very high price contract. So once he cleared waivers, becomes a free agent, and really he still remains a free agent in a lot of ways because he ended up signing to the Minnesota Vikings practice squad. So he's under no obligation at all to remain with the Vikings. And if any team wanted him, they could come to him and basically convince him to sign with their team. But I think for Daniel Jones, it's a good move to just kind of get in the building of a team that might be looking for a starting quarterback in 2025. And that opportunity wouldn't have been there for the 49ers because the 49ers have their long-term starting quarterback. His name is Brock Purdy. And the 49ers, this is about as far as it went, as far as I know. Kyle Shanahan was asked about Daniel Jones on Wednesday, and his answer was, "We discussed it. Yep, that's about it." And so I didn't think that Daniel Jones was a viable option to finish out this season with the 49ers. But I do think that in the offseason, depending on what happens around the league, 49ers would be interested in Daniel Jones as a backup option to Brock Purdy. And I would compare it very, very much like the situation with Sam Darnold last year before the 2023 season, where the 49ers went out, they got him. Now, Darnold was younger, had bounced around a little bit more, but basically, Sam Darnold came to the 49ers knowing that he would be the backup, or assuming he'd be the backup if Brock Purdy was healthy. Remember, when he signed that contract, Brock Purdy wasn't healthy, and he also joined the team when Trey Lance was still around. So there were really no guarantees for Darnold, although I'm assuming at the point he signed with the 49ers, he knew he had a very good chance to beat out Trey Lance for at least the backup job. So with Daniel Jones, there will probably be an opportunity for him to be a starter or at least compete for a starting job next year in the NFL, even though his New York Giants tenure was such a disaster. When you look around the NFL, the way I look at it are there's about 22 teams with their starting quarterback, and I put Carolina in there, even though I'm not entirely sure about Bryce Young, second year in the NFL. He did get benched earlier this season, but as a number one overall pick, it looks like maybe he could be turning the corner. So the teams that I think will be in the quarterback market, and it could be something similar to Minnesota this past season, where they signed Sam Darnold to a 1 year contract, and then they draft a quarterback in the first round. And it could be those situations. It could be Minnesota again, although they have JJ McCarthy, but they might be looking for a veteran quarterback. Maybe it's Sam Darnold, but maybe Sam Darnold is able to use the season he's had this year to get a multi-year contract with one of these teams. And so the teams for sure who will be looking for quarterbacks in the offseason, Minnesota, uh, and it could be Darnold, but might not be either. The New York Jets, Aaron Rodgers is certainly seemed to wear out his welcome there, and no guarantee that he's going to even want to continue to play. Certainly, the New York Giants, they do not have a quarterback answer there. The Las Vegas Raiders, no quarterback answer there. And then there's a couple teams with some young guys or some older guys that I'm not really quite sure about, like New Orleans. New coach will be coming in there. New England has Drake May shown enough to be the full-time starter. I kind of think he has. Tennessee with Will Levis, what are they going to do there? uh, Indianapolis with Anthony Richardson, Pittsburgh. I kind of put them in that kind of I'm not quite sure mode. I guess Russell Wilson. I mean, they're winning a lot of games, so he's probably more likely to come back than some of those other teams that I've mentioned with their quarterback situation. Cleveland is a disaster, and then I mentioned Carolina, kind of hazy there on what that team wants to do. So I guess my point is that with Sam Darnold, he was looking for an opportunity to go to a team, kind of reboot in a lot of ways. And he does give a lot of credit to his time with the 49ers under Kyle Shanahan's scheme, the coaching of Brian Greasy, actually even being behind Brock Purdy and kind of relearning or learning for the first time at the NFL level some of the stuff that you need to have to be successful. And so with Daniel Jones, I think Kevin O'Donnell is very much in that same vein of a head coach who knows the quarterback position very well, kind of a quarterback whisperer. And so for him to go to the Vikings and kind of get a feel for the landscape, that would certainly give Minnesota the inside track if, in fact, they do want Daniel Jones at the end of this season for whatever role. I think for the 49ers, they're not going to be paying top dollar for a backup when more than likely they're going to be giving Brock Purdy a very, very handsome paycheck at some point in the spring or early summer. He's now after this season, it'll be 3 years in the NFL. Teams cannot negotiate or renegotiate contracts with players on their first contract until after the third year. So, Brock Purdy will be going from one of the lowest paid players at the quarterback position in the entire NFL, one of the lowest paid players on the entire 49ers roster, to one of the highest paid players in the league. And I don't think that anything we've seen this year will dissuade the 49ers from giving him, awarding him that kind of contract that you see a lot of other quarterbacks in the league get. So that's the story. Brock Purdy going to be keeping an eye on him. One thing that came up, somebody asked me, if actually a friend asked me, what are the 49ers starting? What are they doing starting a quarterback in Brock Purdy's place who has a broken hand or broken finger? Actually, it might have been my daughter who asked me that question. And I did explain to her that the finger is on his left hand. So it's obviously non-throwing hand. It has no impact on his ability to spin the football. And is wearing a splint. I saw him wearing a splint at practice. He wore a splint during the game. He injured the finger in the lead up to the Tampa Bay game, served as the backup, and then the Tampa Bay game and Seattle for the Seattle week, completely off the injury report. And now, over the past 2 weeks, he's been taking all the first team reps for the 49ers. So, Brandon Allen would be in line to make another start with Josh Dobbs serving as the backup if Brock Purdy can't go. Right now, they're really, aside from the fact that Brock Purdy didn't have any passes, didn't throw any passes in practice Wednesday, no indication exactly where that's heading. But I will say it didn't seem super positive about Brock Purdy's availability for this upcoming game against the Buffalo Bills, especially with the weather conditions that are likely in Buffalo, cold, windy. You want a quarterback who can kind of take the wind out of play. And if your quarterback, if his arm strength isn't there, probably not a good play to go with Brock Purdy if he's anything less than 100% in this game. So, again, thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Leave a comment and a like. And that's it for now.